Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded and it is time for Project 1 from the September mini release. So I am using Jaded Blossom's new Gnome Dies Monster Add Ons 2. The Girl Gnome dies, our Build-A-Booth Monster dies, our Build-A-Booth dies, our Spooky Season stamp set and outline dies, along with our Fall dies and the Let's Be Frank stamp set. I'm also using odds and ends from Sweet and Spooky from Doodlebug and Echo Park's Monster Mash 6-inch pad with the 12-inch solids. And I'm also using Doodlebug's Bouvelle 6-inch pad. So first I have a piece of paper tray ink cardstock, 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5 inches with my Martha Stewart scoreboard and my Teflon bone folder. Here we go. Now I put together that little Build-A-Booth on the Build-A-Booth Monster Add Ons assembly video. Check it out. But I did use paper tray ink black cardstock. So you'll see I cut an extra hair. And I'm going to be putting it on the back because this is a little bit longer than an A2 size card front. I could have put the Frankie head a little lower on the booth, but that's just the way I did it. So as a result, I just wanted to have that black on the back of the head because, you know, I'm crazy that way. Okay, so now I'm going to cover the mouth of the Frankenstein area with some pure poppy cardstock from paper tray ink. I'm just going to glue that down with my Barely Art glue. So you'll see that I also used on this on this Monster Mash little Frankie booth, I used the Monster Mash 6-inch pad and the solids. I used American Crafts silver cardstock. I used paper tray ink white and black cardstock. And that's it. Okay, so now I'm going to stick that front image down onto my A2 size card front. There, just trying to get it even and straight. There we go. I didn't want to compete with the background, so I didn't use a background pattern. So I'm going to weight that down. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to stamp on the on paper tray ink craft cardstock. I'm using the stamp set from Doodlebug called Let's Be Frank. And I'm doing some stamp surgery. So I'm separating the created for and the each other. And that little sign that I'm stamping on is from Jaded Blossom's Fall Dies. So there we go. This is why I love the Misty. So I'm using VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink to stamp onto this craft cardstock from paper tray ink. And it will, my sentiment will say created for each other. So it's sort of like fun, like going with the little Frankenstein booth and the Bride of Frankenstein, right? So there we go. And now I have my sentiment, which will be perfect for my card. So there we go. I'm going to pull out Distress Oxide ink and Black Soot, and I'm going to ink around the edges with a little finger dauber. And I just find that easy when you're inking around little die cuts. I'm just going to run it around all 4 sides of this little stick that holds the sign as well. And I'm going to pull out our the Barely Art glue, and I'm going to stick down that sign onto that Barely Art glue. So there we go. And I do weight it down. Okay, so now I pulled out little hands that I cut from the gnome dies, and I guess, well, it doesn't really matter. They're in the boy gnome dies and the girl gnome dies, but, you know, out of limeade ice from paper tray ink. And there's my little Bride of Frankenstein that comes from the Gnome Dies Monster Add Ons 2 set. Her little dress was cut from soft stone cardstock from paper tray ink. Her black and white hair is black and white cardstock from paper tray ink. There we go. And her face is limeade ice. Okay, so on the inside, I'm going to add a piece of Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and I think this is 3 by 5.5 or something. No, 3 by 5.25, something like that. I'm adding that to the inside. I'm going to add a strip of paper from the Bouvelle 6-inch pad from Doodlebug. Remember, you can add whatever you want. I just wanted something with little Frankensteins on it, right? And this paper had it. There we go. So it's just a 1-inch strip. And then I'm going to add a little odds and ends character. That's a little Frankie. This is kind of like what I like to do with Doodlebug's odds and ends. This odds and ends set is from the Sweet and Spooky set. I was going to say Pookie. Also, there's a sentiment there that I stamped and cut out. That was using the Spooky Season stamp set and outline dies from Jaded Blossom. Okay, so now I'm going to pop up her other little hand like she's kind of holding on to the tendril of her hair. There we go. So created for each other. So fun. And I will stick her mostly down with some Barely Art glue. And I will use some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals in there as well. There we go. So I'm going to stick her down, and then I do slip some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals behind there. I don't, or do I have it in the video? I do. So I'm going to stick that one behind the sign there. And I do stick some behind her hair as well. Okay, so that's what it looks like so far. So I'm pulling out my Secure White Jelly Roll pen in a number 10, and I'm just going to add some highlights here. Remember, if you want to watch me put together the Gnome Dies Monster Add-ons 2, there's an assembly video for that, right? So you can watch me put together this little Miss Frankenstein. Of course, I accidentally had her with white hair with black stripes. So what can I say? It was a mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking Mrs. Frankenstein, but for some reason I did a reversal of her hair. It's just crazy. But anyway, it's exactly the same, the same way of putting it together. So I'm just adding those little highlights on here just for fun. They don't have to, go with any kind of light source. So now I'm pulling out Doodlebugs. It's called an eye shape sprinkles. They're an eye for an eye. They're little tiny black dots basically, and I'm just going to use them for nail heads on my little Frankenstein booth. There we go. And then there's only 2 on the right because it's mostly covered by little Mrs. Frankenstein. And there you go. Isn't she cute? So I'm pulling out Jada Blossom's Fancy Heart dies, and I'm using that Pure Poppy cardstock from Paper Ink, and I'm going to add a few little hearts to the front and inside just for fun. And I will pop those up with those miniature Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. I just think it adds a little something, right? Isn't it cute? I just love this. I just love this Frankenstein booth and that Bride of Frankenstein. How cute is she? Just adorable. So I'm going to add this little heart on this little odds and ends Frankie from Doodlebug. And then there you have it. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog. Be inspired at the Jaded Blossom store to get your hands on this release. And make sure to check out my second video with my second project. Bye, everybody.